Hey Kevin, Property Soldier here. Welcome to this multitasking podcast live stream. I'm also going to be posting this in Facebook so that people can watch the replay of this interview with Becca and Claire. So say hi, Becca and Claire.
Hi, Kevin. Hi.
Okay, so cool. So some of you will be watching this live, and like I say, some will watch on the replay. Either scenario, it's fine for you to type any comments or questions that you may have during this interview. And I will also be posting this on my podcast, the Service Accommodation Property Podcast. So let's get cracking. So Becca and Claire, you are SA operators, and you've been doing it a couple of years now. And so before SA, what were you doing? 'Cause you're full-time service accommodation operators now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we've probably been in the SA business for 18 months.
Yeah.
And before then, we were full-time tennis coaches. So, and the contract we were on and the venue we were coaching at, it was pretty full on. And back at the start of 2019, we were starting to...
Whereabouts in the country?
Oh, we were in Cardiff in South Wales.
Yeah, and you're still there, right?
Still there, yeah. Still there. Yeah, so cool. Back at the start of 2019, we were full-time tennis coaches, 12-hour days were kind of the norm. It's very different from our day-to-day now as SA operators.
And I know, I mean, we've spoken before lots of times, but ultimately, people will relate to the fact that it's still a job, right? It was still exchanging time for money. And so what you do now, obviously, you're still exchanging time for money in another form, but how does that compare, what you do now compared to actually working and working for other people in a job?
I guess before, as coaches, essentially to make money, we had to be there physically on the court for that hour to make the money. Whereas the business now enables us we still have to put the work in, but we don't always have to be there to make money. We can put the systems in place, and we can do the background, and we can work really hard to make sure that the business can make money for us wherever we are. It doesn't matter if we're at home, we're out and about, we're in a different country. The business has the capacity to generate revenue without us having to physically be there.
Money whilst you sleep, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people, it's sometimes a mindset shift, isn't it? There are certain businesses, certain trades that require somebody to be there, and it's just one-on-one. And unless you create a franchise where you have people working for you, it's very hard to get more money for that hour spent with somebody, isn't it, in a lot of industries? So yeah, absolutely. So you've now decided to go into an industry where an hour of your time can be producing results across multiple different areas. So that's, I mean, me too. I used to be clearly in a job. I was in the army, but again, there's a ceiling into how much money you can earn in a job usually, isn't there? Yeah. And what the other thing that people fall foul of, and they get into a trap in that they think, well, I'll just work really, really hard in a job, and then my hourly rate will go up. But what they find is they're just exchanging more and more time for money, and the responsibility and the pressure and the stress just keeps going up and up and up and up, and it's no quality of life, and they're missing out on their family and their friends and things like that. So that's the trap a lot of people can find themselves in. No, I don't know if you can relate to this, but business as well can have its obviously has its stresses and have its challenges, but I'd much rather those challenges and being a business owner and an entrepreneur than the other stresses of being in a job. Can you relate to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can we talk about that? Yeah, I mean, I think even though we're still working hard on the business, that at least we're working for ourselves, and we're working towards something that we know we're going to be able to leverage, and all of those things. So we're working towards something for time with our families, for time with each other. So I think that's the difference, isn't it? You're not doing it for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we met, so what, it was 18 months ago now, right? Okay. Yeah. And so talk us about that. How did you come up? Why did you come up to Progressive, to Peterborough? what happened? Take us through that journey, and that journey to where you are now, I suppose.
It was interesting on a bit of a whim. So we had 2 buy-to-lets that were just kind of ticking along, and they were fine. They were giving us a decent yield, and the tenants were fine. But we were really aware that the money coming in from those buy-to-lets was not a life-changing amount of money. It wasn't going to mean that we could quit our jobs and transform our lives. It wasn't that kind of cash flow. So, and also buying property takes a long time. So we were kind of thinking, for us to make significant inroads, we're going to need a lot more capital and a lot more time, and we're going to have to spend probably another 10 years slogging out the hours on the tennis court. So we just started exploring different options, and ended up seeing, I probably got bombarded with emails about this, a service accommodation day.
No, surely not.
Yeah. So I think we just decided, let's go and have a look and see what it's all about. And we honestly
gave in. You surrendered. You surrendered.
Yeah, exactly. I think we probably went in all honesty a little bit cynically. What's all this about, type thing. But it kind of became increasingly clear quite quickly that it could work, and we could. I remember coming away from that first day thinking, we could do this. This is a viable business for us. And we saw a lot of opportunities in it. So, and then quite quickly after doing that one, I think it was a half day kind of little snippet into the world of SA, we then did the 2-day course, and then on the back of that did the mastermind. And I think that the training that we did gave us kind of the structure and also the confidence to go after it, really. And I think by the time we got halfway through, was it halfway through the mastermind? No, maybe 2 in. Yeah. Maybe 2 into the mastermind, we decided to quit our tennis coaching jobs, our full-time coaching jobs, because we needed to make some more time in our weeks to get the SA business up and running. And we had a lot of conversations about the longer we stay in our full-time jobs, the longer it's going to take us to build this SA business to where we want it to be. So we took a bit of a leap of faith, but in hindsight, it was maybe a little bit of a risk, but at the time it didn't feel like one, because we knew we had the structure and the support to make it work, and we're pretty motivated people, and we were backing ourselves to get it up and running. So that's what we did, and we took the structures we were given, we implemented them, we kind of held each other accountable for the things we said we were going to do. We got our first SA. We kind of got 4 very quickly that were up and running by September last year.
And what were those? What type of acquisition was that? 3
rent to SAs, 2 through an agent, and 1 that was a friend. Because one of the things we started to do quite early on was tell people what we were doing, which until then with the buy-to-lets, we hadn't really told anybody that we were doing anything in property, because sometimes you don't quite know how people are going to take it sometimes. So we kept it a bit under the radar, but we kind of made the decision, right, we're going to start telling people. On the back of that, we actually got a rent to SA from one of our good friends. So yeah, we had 3 rent to SAs and 1 management, who again was a friend, by September.
So how many months in was that since the training?
So we must have started the mastermind in March.
Yeah, I think it was March. Yeah,
started the mastermind in March. So 5 months in, probably.
Which meant that you probably came on the 2-day in Feb, and then March. Yeah, fab. Okay, and so one of the things that you said just now, it reminded me of Rob Moore's catchphrase, and which is, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. And it took me a while for that to actually sink in. What does he mean by that? And absolutely, if people just decide to stay in their comfort zone and in their jobs, then what are you risking? Because is there any such thing as job security, especially when it relies on your health? You know, being a tennis coach, your physical health, etc. And so, is there any such thing as job security? Any such thing as pension security? I think if people are honest with themselves, the answer is no. And so, actually, that's what it means. I think I've never actually asked Rob, tell me what it means. But if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. And so, you took a bit of a risk in terms of going into business for yourselves and to become business owners. And so what was it that gave you, because I remember early days, and you guys, because I do the on the stage, I do the presenting, the opportunity and all that stuff, but you guys are actually, Caroline, and don't worry, I'm perfectly happy with you singing Caroline's praises, because I do a lot, but Caroline, my other half, you early days, I remember you guys would have a phrase, what would Caroline do? In this situation, and so again, different people relate to different people, don't they? So what was it that gave you the confidence that, because some people say, oh well, yeah, they're the snake oil sellers, they're selling a dream, it's impossible, and they just want the money and all that. But what was it that gave you the confidence to actually exchange hard-earned money for training and mentoring? Because that's a risk, right?
Yeah. I guess I'll throw one answer out there, is that because of our coaching background, it would be, that's what we do. That's what we've done for 20 years before we did this business, was ask people to pay for our expertise. And I think we, as coaches ourselves, recognize the value in being properly educated and properly trained. And I'd like to think that as tennis coaches, that's what we did. And it feels like it would be a bit hypocritical to say, oh no, I can learn everything I need to know from SA off YouTube. Because, I mean, sometimes people come to us saying they taught themselves tennis off YouTube, and you just kind of think, So yeah, I think we recognise the value in education and training.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because I mean, you guys commented on my rant I had recently, because I've been listening to an audio book about property investing, and this guy's slagging off property courses and all that type of thing. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? What some people think that it's somehow immoral for somebody that's got expertise in something to want to be paid for passing on that knowledge and expertise, which is just really weird, isn't it? I don't understand that mindset. And I think a lot of it comes down to people that have paid for a training course. Maybe it's a property training course, didn't put it into action, but it's easier to blame the snake oil seller for selling something that doesn't work. But obviously you guys are a testament to the fact that as long as you put hard work in, it does work. So that's
there's a difference as well between knowledge and information. So you can, you can read a book and get a ton of information, but without context and some guidance and some support, it's relatively difficult. If you come in from like a knowledge, you know it back to front, inside out, you're an expert in it, and that's what we needed. We needed expert support. Yeah. So and you're right. Sometimes you'll watch something on YouTube, or you'll read a book or something, but that's quite often that opens up questions, doesn't it? So, okay, so how does that relate to me? So how do I put that into practice? And then sometimes even if the book has been pretty clear, sometimes you just want to ask somebody and to look them in the eye and say, so can you just have a little look at this? And am I doing the right thing here? Is this definitely right, before you press go? Because a lot of the time people just don't take that final piece of action because they just don't have that warm fuzzy feeling, if you like, that they are still doing the right thing, and they need, a lot of people just need a bit of a sanity check, right?
And so, yeah, I mean, me personally, I've spent a ridiculous amount of money on training courses and education and mentoring, etc., in property. And so, yeah, I know how it works, and I know that if I want knowledge and expertise and hand-holding from somebody, I should pay for it. And free advice is worth every penny usually, isn't it? But no, that's cool. So you went into rent to SA, and so SA, so you went into SA management pretty quickly as well, but you also own property that you use as SA as well, right?
Yes.
So tell us about your different acquisitions. Tell us about those. So, because people listening would be interested to know that it's not just rent to SA. A lot of people won't know about SA management, how that works. But then there's also purchase to SA or property that you already own into SA. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So our purchase to SA was a flat that we lived in I lived in for 15 years, I think. And then we bought a new house kind of in the city, a little bit more with a garden and stuff. So, and then we thought we'd put the apartment on for SA and see how it goes. I wasn't sure about it actually, because it's a little bit outside Cardiff. It's in a place called Penarth Marina. But it's been really successful, that one. It's a lovely flat, and obviously because we live there, that's the one that we have that a little bit more of an emotional attachment to, which I know you shouldn't in property, but that's kind of, you know, our kind of one that we feel like that with, really. Plus we knew the neighbours and everything, which is always a bit awkward, you know, so we kind of know what we were doing and things like that. So whereas lots of our others are, you know, more of a business, you know, we've got how many renter? We've got seven renter SA, and then 2 SA management at the moment, where we just charge a percentage on the SA management and just do everything basically. So, and I think we found that the mixture is quite nice, because you've obviously with the SA management don't have so much in, you know, you haven't got to furnish it or do, you know, sort the bills out and things like that, like you do for rent to SA. So it's quite nice to have a bit of a mix.
Yeah. So for people who are not that familiar, by the way, Fola's said hi. Fola's watching live, and she's saying hi to you guys as well.
Hi.
And so, yeah, so rent to SA, just a bit of a recap for people. You pay the fixed rent for the property. It can be either furnished or unfurnished. If it's unfurnished, then you're going to put the furniture in there, so you can either buy it or lease the furniture. And you, as the rent to SA operator, are paying the utilities, etc. But ultimately, all of the revenue from the property is yours, and you just pay the rent from that revenue from the property. And then SA management, landlords are bringing the property to you, and you can give advice on how to stage it, how to furnish it, etc. But it's the landlord needs to do that side. But it can be a lot more lucrative for the landlord, right? In terms of, so let's say you're charging 15%, 20% of the turnover for the property for managing it, and you pay the cleaners and the laundry and the OTA costs, the booking.com travel, the Airbnb costs, those things, and then you're giving the what's left to the owner, and that can actually be a lot more lucrative than just getting fixed rent, right?
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to tell us a little bit more about the benefits to the owners in terms of in doing, well, both sides? So benefits to the owners for giving you properties on a fixed rent to SA, and benefits to the owners of doing SA management. Do one of you want to take one and the other take the other? I put you on the spot, haven't I? I put you on the spot.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation this morning over a cup of coffee about how, so Claire does lots of the kind of liaison with our landlords, both ones that we manage and ones that we do rent to SA, and also the agent that we work with for the rent to SA. So Claire does lots of those, kind of building relationships and communication, and we kind of got to talking about how landlords will often want very different things. Some want the fixed, monthly, guaranteed, the money dropping in their account every month without fail. They want that. They want the stability. Some are looking at it, they want to maximize their assets. They're up for a much more of a kind of a management system. Like you're saying, they can generate a lot more revenue than if they just have it with a standard tenant. So it's really interesting how the different landlords want different things out of it financially, but then also we were talking a little bit how emotionally landlords want different things out of the deal. And you want to say what you were saying to me earlier?
Yeah, and it's a little bit like I was saying about the one that we own and do SA. One of our managements is the guy used to live there, so it was his house. So he likes to know when I go in there that it's all okay in there, that it's all secure, it's looking nice. He's not so, he's obviously interested about the money as well, but that's where he kind of sits with it. Whereas other landlords don't mind about that at all. They just want the money dropping in. They maybe want to know how many bookings they're getting, how busy is it, and all of those things. So it's just managing different people, I suppose, landlords, agents, of what really is important to them, and I think that, as in our business model, that's something that we pride ourselves on, is that you get that little bit extra. If you want to know, is your property okay, then you get to know that. If you're not bothered and you just want the money in, that's what you get, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of really specific to each person, which I think is important.
Yeah, 100%. And so when you've taken properties on Rent to SA from a letting agent, how do you approach that with a letting agent as opposed to speaking direct to a landlord, direct to the owner?
I think we've had most success when we have laid out for the agent what's in it for them, and made it quite clear that it makes their life easier, because one of the biggest thorns in the side of agents is tenants. So when you kind of go in, you say, look, this is what we can do for you. We can make your life easier. It's a business relationship with us. They're much, especially now we've got initially it was more difficult to have that conversation before we had a more established business up and running. But if you can go to them and say, we can take away your pain points, they're quite quick to engage in that conversation, we found.
Yeah, tenants, when they trash your property and don't pay you any rent, you're not allowed to kill them. That's the problem, right? So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's just explaining that it's going to make their life so much easier, and the property's kept in show home condition. And what we find, and what you would have found is, once the agents start doing their quarterly checks or 3-month checks, whatever, 4-month checks, then the property, it just gets the best tick in the box. However, they're grading it in terms of cleanliness and maintenance and etc. And then obviously the rent's paid on time every single month. The property's being kept in show home condition, and so what's not to like? And they're not getting nagging phone calls from normal tenants. They're dealing with a professional operation who are notifying them, yes, if something does need to be sorted and fixed, but it's not. It's a lot easier than dealing with people like yourself and some tenants, right? So yeah, absolutely. It's always about, I find, just explaining to the other side what's in it for them. And a lot of people make the mistake of just focusing on what's in it for me, don't they? So with you mentioned that you're obviously in Cardiff, South Wales area now, and so South Wales as currently under Wales in total is currently under a lockdown, isn't it? And so everybody is experienced in UK lockdown at some point or another, and we may well experience it again soon. We just don't know how long it's going to go back to normal. But some people, I found that the people that have struggled throughout lockdowns the most with SA is people that were solely relying on Booking.com and Airbnb and weren't doing anything outside of those channels. Or some people only Airbnb, weren't even on Booking.com. And so when bookings decreased, they were struggling. But so tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've done in order to not be solely reliant on the OTAs, in order to get bookings yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, back in the first lockdown, March, April time, obviously the OTAs ended up being completely shut down. So yeah, if you were relying on OTA bookings, it was, I imagine, a very difficult time. I mean, direct bookings are always so much better because you're not paying the commission. So it's always been on our business kind of priority list to get as many direct bookings as we possibly can, whether that's following up with guests who initially booked through an OTA and then getting them to book again as a direct booking, or whether it's a bit more boots on the ground. So a few things done this time is go to some construction sites with a leaflet that kind of outlines the benefits of SA over hotels, and not just in terms of price, but in terms of what they get, and just try to make sure that we're making life as easy as possible. And Claire does a lot of really good work with businesses on the phone and getting in touch with the offices and securing bookings, don't you?
Yeah, this time and in the last lockdown, actually, we had quite a lot of bookings just from Booking.com, and especially when the hotels were shut, obviously everyone's panicking. If they need accommodation, then what do they use? So I think a lot of people, a lot of businesses have turned to service accommodation that they didn't use before because they had to, and then realised how much better it is financially, but also, you know, for the obvious reason, they've got a living space, they've got kitchens, you know, when all the restaurants and stuff are shut, what are they going to do? So if we had an initial booking through Booking.com, then straight away get hold of whoever's booked it in the office and then just try and build a relationship with them. And we had, through both lockdowns, some quite significant bookings, like longer bookings as well, just to see us through that period.
I think the other thing that's key has been our social media. So just being more kind of prevalent on social media, but then also having a really good website, so that when people look you up, then it's easy for them to book via your website. I think that's really important.
Yeah, cool. So what's your website? What's your social media?
Our company is called Switchback Stays. So Switchback, all one word, and then Stays. And that's our name on Facebook. You can look us up on Facebook. Our website is switchbackstays.co.uk. Cool.
So, you know, so whilst we're on the subject, so people watching this, listening to this, who might want to get into SA, but they don't want to do the management of SA. So correct me if I'm wrong. So people could potentially approach you guys and say, look, if I bring you a property, presumably you will evaluate the property, do your due diligence on the property, and based on your knowledge of the area, give them some feedback on how well the property is likely to work, explain how it could work, you know, rough revenue that they might expect, etc. And therefore, you would be able to then just plug it into the OTAs, plug it onto your website, use your own cleaning, your own laundry, etc., and operate the property as I say. Right. So anyone watching this, listening to this, then obviously they can approach you guys in order to do that. And obviously, I know you guys well. I know that you are operating SA in the right way, and so I'm more than happy to endorse you guys on that side. Now, when it comes to, I'll just talk about that actually whilst we're on the subject, because landlords that are struggling with Section 24, so landlords who have got properties owned in their own name with mortgages on them, they're earning an awful lot less year on year profit from those properties. And some landlords are actually going to end up in negative in terms of cash flow with the extra tax that they're going to be paying on the rent because of Section 24. So you can help by landlords giving you their properties to use as SA for you to manage. They're going to avoid Section 24. So that's a key learning. And they're also, you guys would be able to put them in touch with a capital allowance surveyor, and they would also be able to claim capital allowances on the portfolio, which can equate to tens of thousands of pounds of tax-free income as well. So again, we spoke earlier about creating a win-win situation and what's in it for the landlord. So yeah, if you're explaining Section 24 benefit and capital allowance benefits to the landlord, then they're going to say, well, where do I sign? Especially if you guys are going to keep the property in show home condition, and they're going to get more income from the property than they might have got with buy to let. so what's not to like? And the other thing that needs pointing out right now is the tenant eviction ban for tenants. It's, you know, you've got to be giving 6 months notice, and then if the tenant doesn't pay rent and trashes your property, good luck trying to get them out through the courts, because the waiting list in the courts is I'm hearing over a year, well over a year, and even then only if you've got really extenuating circumstances that you've gone bankrupt, then they might bump you up the queue. So what's that all about? So actually, landlords are in a very precarious position with tenants totally at the mercy of tenants right now. So the good tenants fine, but the bad tenants have just got all the cards right now. So you guys can obviously help these landlords in that situation and create a complete win-win situation. So I always like to just point that out. So for your scaling of SA, what can you see? So once we've got back to normal jogging, once you know how to get bookings even under lockdown, and you know how to get long bookings, etc., etc. But when things go back to normal, how can you see it going? Because you identified the fact that this lockdown has caused an awful lot of businesses to favour SA now over hotels, because it also provides better social distancing. But then when there's no lockdown, we've got the staycation boom as well, where people are worried about travelling overseas and they want to go see their friends and family. So how can you see SA for you guys, let's say from summer of next year?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of starting to make plans now for when, like you say, we do eventually get back to some kind of normality. And I think it's going to be a really busy time for us. I think we're going to have a real kind of boom in bookings. We're already starting to see feedback from guests who aren't used to staying in SA. They're used to hotels, saying, right, we'll definitely do this again next time we're in Cardiff. So I think we're going to see a big kind of peak in businesses continuing with using SA. And I think, like you say, there's going to be people that are going to be staying in the UK. And I read a few articles that Airbnb have done some research to suggest that it's really popular to go on holiday within driving distance of your house, which is actually interesting, because we're having a few bookings where people are less so at the moment, but before this 2-week fire break, people are just literally coming down the road for a few days away from home to get a change of scenery.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, the popularity of SA, I think, absolutely undeniably is going to keep increasing more and more and more in terms of staycations. People want to go and visit friends and family, they can stay in SA. Businesses, they can be saving a hell of a lot of money by booking, instead of putting their 5 contractors in, you know, let's say it's 3 hotel rooms and a couple of them are sharing. Well, that can be in a 2-bed or 3-bed house, because of, you know, sofa bed and single beds in the bedrooms and all that sort of stuff, and saving themselves a fortune. So there's definitely a future in it, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I think that businesses are really starting to realise that if they can send people away and they can have their own bedroom rather than sharing a hotel room, that they just get happier employees, I think, which is only a good thing for them.
And I think this is where the phrase "observe the masses, do the opposite" comes in, because you guys can see the future, whereas the people that get afraid or worried. So let's face it, we saw lots of people hand back their SAs, so their rent to SAs, their SA management properties. We saw people doing SA themselves, putting buy-to-let tenants in their own properties instead. And so what that's caused is less SAs out there. But when the floodgates open, who's going to benefit? The people that operated throughout the times when other people were panicking, went the extra yards, as you guys have done, in order to get bookings if the OTAs have closed off their calendars. And so you can reap the benefits, because you're still operating and you're still able to scale when the floodgates open. So absolutely. And so you're still getting long bookings now, even though you're under lockdown. And so it's just a case of, I can't wait. I just really can't wait until, like I say, all of the different avenues of bookings are coming in, and the popularity of SA just keeps increasing. And some people say, oh, well, is there too many SAs in my area? No, because if there's more demand for something, then there's more demand for something if that demand is increasing. So, and the other thing that people worry about, and by the way, Vito said, great website, by the way. So he's obviously checked out your website. That stays. Somebody else has said, it's only come up as Facebook user. It's come up and said, great to see you both again. I can only see Facebook user. So you'll have to type again and say your name. Because on some platforms, I can see the person's name when they comment, and some platforms I can't because I'm using StreamYard, which streams onto multiple platforms at once. So we'll find out who that is that says, I'm presuming they're obviously talking to you. Great to see you two. So yeah, so absolutely. I lost my train. What was I going to ask? So yeah, SA is going to keep increasing in popularity, and we're just going to be able to reap the benefits of that. So guys, is there anything else you want to talk about? So Paul Andrew said awesome points. If anyone else has got any questions for Claire and Becca, then type those in the comments box, and I will ask the questions to Becca and Claire for you. Anyone wants to reach out to Becca and Claire, then obviously reach out via Facebook and the website. Have you got an email address that people might want to email you on, guys?
Yeah, so I'm Becca at switchbackstays.co.uk, and you're...
Yeah, Claire at switchbackstays.co.uk.
Awesome. And what, in fact, another thing whilst we're talking about websites, and so do you retarget your guests who come and stay with you, right? And so once they've stayed with you, how do you then retarget them ethically, GDPR compliant and all that, in order to incentivize them to book direct with you after that?
We have the first thing we do is we have a lot of branding in the apartments themselves. So all of our signage that's up on the wall, we put some postcards in that got booked direct for the best price, and just try to get a little bit of a thought in their mind about the business of where they're staying. And we found it's a lot to do with getting the balance between automated messages that you send with check-in, check-out details and all the rest of the kind of stuff you could automate, and then trying to add in that little personal touch. You want to talk about that because that's your thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's figuring out why people are staying as well. Say for example, if people are staying to visit family, then their family's always there. So you're like, well, next time just book with us, or just reach out with a text message or something like that. People quite like that. And then we even had one this week. Then they just message you straight back or pass it on to a friend or a colleague. So it's just building that relationship really with people, and just trying not to be in a forceful way, just in a quite a relaxed way, I think.
Yeah. And so do you guys give them a discount code to put into your website in order to get a discount from the booking.com price, or how do you do that with them?
Yeah, so our channel manager pushes the rates obviously differently to different platforms. So when it pushes the rates to our website, they are the cheapest rates you could book it for. So okay. It undercuts the OTAs on our website. I
see, yeah. And which you use Tokeep, right?
Yeah.
Tokeep. So have you got any bolt-ons that you add on to Tokeep in order to get extra functionality?
They're quite good actually. So Rate Genie is the rate management add-on, and that's great. I mean, less so now because there's less going on in the city. Obviously, the prices are a little bit more static. And also because now we're tending to have people come for a little bit longer. They're coming maybe for a week or a month. So then you're adding discounts for those longer stays. But in more kind of regular times, in a city like Cardiff, it's just impossible to keep on top of events that are happening. Tickets get released in the middle of the night or something. But Rate Genie just manages the rates for us so that it maximizes the nightly rate when there's something on that people seem to be creating a demand in the city for. And so is it just monitoring your own listings, or is it monitoring everyone else's listings as well? Yeah, so it takes information from multiple different listings in the radius that you give it, depending on how far away from where your unit is you want them to to pitch the prices around. And you kind of choose, do you want to be in the top kind of 75 percentile of price? You want to be more down towards the lower end. You can manipulate the strategy to unit depending on where it is and the spec of the apartment and whatever else.
So you don't get caught out by Little Mix.
No.
Those Little Mixers, yeah. So they release their concert dates in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning. All the Little Mixers are jumping on there, booking your SAs up really cheap. Whereas Rate Genie would pick up on that and make sure your prices are raised, right? So awesome tip, guys. So everyone appreciates that. So I've had a question in. Can't see the name, from a Facebook user. So thoughts on taking on new properties now with impending lockdown. So what would be your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, I mean, going on what happened in previous lockdowns, so we managed to, for all of our rent to SAs, pay all of our landlords their rent in full on time every month. We didn't miss any. We didn't even have to ask for any rent reductions or anything like that, which we were really reluctant to kind of go down that road. Not really what we wanted to stand for. So, you know, in terms of making the SAs work, it's probably been more reliant on us making sure we're more proactive with our marketing and chasing up leads. But touch wood, booking wise, we've been okay. And then August and September, when we came out of the lockdown a little bit, it was really busy. And then now we've been in this fire break, and again, touch wood, it's been fine. But I think the key is to be proactive. If we just sit back and wait for the OTA bookings to roll in, it would be unbelievably stressful. You're just leaving too much to chance. So I think, you know, we'd be, and we are having chats with landlords at the moment about taking on new places, and we'd be comfortable to. It's just making sure that we stay proactive, keep pushing those bookings forward.
Yeah, cool. Because that's one of the things that I do like to say to people when, in advance of even taking on their first SA, is go and test demand and go and reach out to different companies and different businesses, create some PDF flyers, create a website showing, you know, what your product is likely to look like, so representative SA properties, etc., and be reaching out to different companies and businesses, as you guys have done, and saying, so would you wish to come and stay with us if we're able to provide this quality you know, accommodation for you at these night rates, etc., etc. So you know, if people get that feedback from companies and businesses, then taking on SA is absolutely fine. And to answer the person's question, you know, there's so many businesses and companies that they have to keep operating even under the worst types of lockdowns. They have to, and they need accommodation. And when hotels and OTAs are potentially shutting up shop, you are their lifeline in terms of being able to still accommodate them and give social distancing and all that. So actually, it's fine to still take on property as long as you know that you've got your client lined up, right?
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people just, I think, are too over-reliant on the OTAs to be feeding them their bookings. And obviously you guys are doing it absolutely perfectly. So we're going to be wrapping up very shortly, guys. I don't think I haven't got any other questions that haven't been answered yet. But have you got anything any points that you want to make, or anything that you want to announce or say, guys, before we leave everyone to their Saturdays?
Anything?
Don't think so.
I mean, I would say if anybody is starting their SA journey, one of the things that we've been really mindful of is to just keep revisiting why we're doing it and what the end goal is. Even if that's like the goal for the next year or 2 years or whatever it is, because I think if you keep revisiting that why, so for us it was about time, it was about having time to be able to spend with each other, with friends, with family, to travel, all the rest of it. To keep revisiting that keeps you motivated. And, you know, it's been tough. This year has been tough for everybody with everything that's been going on. So I think it's really important just to have really front of mind why you're doing it, and just, you know, keep nudging towards that end goal.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, 100%, because that's what makes it so much easier to put the hard work in, isn't it? If you know that the benefit of doing that is you get to spend more time. I think you hit the nail on the head. More time with friends and family. It's the old doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want type thing. And so some people will be watching and listening, thinking, well, is SA not? Does that not take up lots of your time? So what do you do to outsource? So enable you to travel, etc. What are you doing? What systems have you got in place that allow that?
Well, we've got a really, really good cleaning team is the first thing. They've got to be really, really, I mean, if your cleaning team aren't great, it very quickly becomes very stressful. And our cleaning team have been brilliant. And Claire's got quite a good, very close kind of communication with them day to day. I mean, you're always on the phone to the menu and various different things, especially at the moment when you want to be able to assure guests that everything is in place for the things to be not just clean, because our places are always clean, but that little extra sanitizing steps, touch points, all the rest of it. So I think that's key, to have a cleaning team, and then also have a maintenance team. So if something needs doing, you've got 3 or 4 different people that you can get to go out there, and it needs to be done quickly, invariably, because maybe you've got a gap between guests, or the guest is in there, but it needs to be, it's an emergency issue. You need to have those people in place.
Cool. And so, yeah, absolutely fundamental, having maintenance people and not just one maintenance person to be able to get in touch with if necessary. And those maintenance people have to be pretty reliable. And you hit the nail on the head with the cleaning. The cleaning team are fundamental to any service accommodation operator's success, right? And so that cleaning team, presumably they've got redundancy, so you're not just relying on 1 or 2 people. They've got redundancy to deal with sickness and holiday, etc., etc. So that's another important thing that I think people fall foul of, is they become over reliant on one person to do the cleaning. So we've always gone with a cleaning company, not just a one-man band, a one-woman band type cleaner, because I think that's a risk, right? Yeah. Cool. So we've got lots of feedback. People saying that they've really enjoyed this interview. Thanks for the answers, girls. Great help. Very inspirational. I can't see the name of that person, unfortunately. But Fola said, lovely session. Thank you all. Claire and Becca, awesome and dedicated. Kevin is too. Oh, thanks, Fola. Give me lots of virtual hugs. Is our Fola. Thanks, Fola. We're a big fan of yours too. All right. So thanks very much, ladies, for this interview. It's been absolutely fab, and I think it's always good for people to see real people out there doing service accommodation, and even when there's adversity, still thriving because of putting in the extra yards, etc., etc. Because one of the phrases I used recently is where there's adversity, there's opportunity as well. And so you guys are observing the masses, but doing the opposite. And let's face it, those of us, when the floodgates open next year, then we're just going to really, really benefit from being into service accommodation, aren't we? So it's all looking rosy. It's all looking rosy. So awesome, guys. So thanks very much, everybody, for listening and tuning in. Here's to your service accommodation success. Do you want to say cheerio to everyone, Becca and Claire?
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for watching and listening. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, and remember, your future needs you. Take care.